Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here, and today I'd like to talk to you guys for just a little bit about fatigue management when you are losing weight or cutting body fat. Now, when I was a much younger man, this isn't something I really thought about much, but after I dealt with a major medical issue with an autoimmune component that put me in bed for 10 months straight in my 30s, and I had gained like 100 pounds, and then I had to come back and try to train and lose weight and all of that after it really started becoming a major issue for me. And it's something I've noticed as I've gotten into my late 30s. Anytime I make any efforts to cut body fat, fatigue can become a major issue. And for all of you who are starting to get a little bit older, this can become an issue. For any of you who have stressful jobs, maybe a stressful school life because you're in college studying for finals and you're trying to lose body fat, or you just have a high-stress job or family life, which constitutes a lot of you out there. Maybe not some of the guys who aren't working. Maybe they're just in school. They're not taking it seriously and they're training hard. Yeah, they don't necessarily always have these same issues, but people with careers, families, or who are starting to get older, or any real major stressors in your life, training-induced and exercise-induced fatigue when you're trying to lose body fat can really start to bury you. It can not only make doing things more difficult, the actual weight loss process, but it can actually make your day-to-day life, your job, raising your family, things like that, more difficult because you're tired all the time. And one of the things that you need to keep in mind is that as fatigue mounts when you're losing weight, or the faster you're losing weight, your body, one of the things that it tries to do to keep you from starving to death, because that's its fear, is not so much that it lowers metabolism as much as people think. It makes you lazy. It makes you want to be less active. So sometimes you might be training really hard in the gym, but you're so tired afterwards, again, due to lack of caloric intake, lack of carbohydrate intake, or at least not sufficient amounts, that you start to just be lethargic. You don't want to move around, and moving around and just being active, non-exercise induced activity can actually be a massive component in weight loss. For some people, that could actually make a pound or two difference of fat loss every single month, and that starts to add up and become significant. So minimizing your fatigue, or at least putting it into a controllable state, starts to become very, very important. And one of the things we need to look at is not so much what is best for fat loss on paper, but what is best for sustained fat loss and keeping your life in order without the fatigue really starting to set in on you, because you're always going to get some fatigue. Lifting weights, doing cardio, either one of those in general when you're in a calorie deficit is going to cause you fatigue to some extent. It's about making it manageable. Now, obviously, if body composition was your only concern, believe it or not, cardio isn't actually the real answer. Weightlifting is. People who come in and just do high volumes of weight training every day, in theory, should automatically have the best body composition, particularly when they're trying to lose weight, because minute per minute, weightlifting burns more calories than anything else, and more calories burned is in the long term going to equal more fat loss. The problem is that what ends up happening is that the fatigue from that is the highest possible amount. You come in and lift weights hard for an hour with minimal breaks between your work sets, doing a lot of squats, deadlifts, full body movements like that. You're going to burn the most calories possible, way more than you could in any cardio session. But your fatigue is going to start mounting very quickly, and that fatigue is going to kick in really hard when you're not able to recover because you're training with high volumes and high frequencies without sufficient food and rest. And it's all muscle stimulating. So unlike some other activities, it's actually stimulating muscle growth. And in theory, the recomposition from that should help with fat loss. But again, in practice, it doesn't work. What you have to do as an individual, and I'm not saying this is a blanket rule for everyone, because some people, due to genetics, age, even drug use, can get away with high volumes of weightlifting, high volume, high rep training every single day, 5 days a week, 6 days a week, something like that, while they're losing body fat and actually manage it. But again, their lifestyle is usually a factor. They oftentimes don't have other stressors going on in their lives. So what you have to do is mitigate it. For some people, you might find that you can only get away with doing the bare minimum of weight training to hold on to the muscle mass that you have. And for some people, that might mean you are doing full body workouts, 30 or 40 minutes tops, 2 or 3 times a week. For some people, once they start losing weight, that's actually all they can handle, and they will struggle to even maintain their strength on doing that, particularly once they start adding cardio and other things in. And so fatigue management for that is going to be highly individual. What you have to do is take your weight training and assess it yourself on a case-by-case basis. How lazy are you feeling for the next 3 or 4 hours after you train? How fatigued are you the next morning when you wake up? Are you struggling to wake up in the mornings even with caffeine and coffee in your system? Are you wanting to avoid doing any other activity outside of the weight training and the little bit of cardio you do. Are you just completely exhausted and lazy? Are you becoming irritable? Is your blood pressure going up? Is your resting heart rate going up? Those are the signs that you should look for. And if you're seeing those signs, you're doing too much weight training volume while you're cutting. The fatigue is mounting, and it's going to start interfering with other aspects of your life, interfering with recovery. And once it really interferes with recovery, you can then lose muscle mass easier. And that's a real problem, because the whole goal of weight loss should be to lose body fat, not to lose muscle mass. That's what's going to keep your metabolism higher. That should be the most effective use of your calorie deficit. And we certainly don't want to lose muscle mass. And as if you start to overtrain in this state, and it's far easier to do with a calorie deficit, it's going to be problematic in regards to that. So those are the signs you should watch for. And if you're seeing those signs, you need to reel your volume down, reel your frequency in a little bit. Start cutting things back until those problems go away. Because if they don't go away, once you reduce your volume 20% or 30%, you're going to have to cut it further. Then there's going to be the cardiovascular aspects of it. And a lot of people want to point out that HIIT cardio, interval training, things like that seem to be best for fat loss, at least in the short term, because of the fact that they can, in theory, help you gain muscle. They rev up metabolic rate and everything. But the truth is, if you look at the study I put out a while back for you guys, the data is showing that interval training doesn't seem to help with muscle gain. It actually can cause some muscle loss even in fairly untrained individuals. So that's not necessarily true, and a lot of the health benefits that are ascribed to HIIT can be obtained with high rep weight training also. It's not something that's unique to just that style of cardio. So what you have to do is assess that as well. If you're adding HIIT cardio into your routine in order to try to burn more body fat off, again, you have to assess the fatigue in the exact same manner that you assess the weight training. Again, you're watching for that extra lethargy, that extra laziness, elevated resting heart rate, elevated blood pressure, things like that. Those are the things that you need to watch out for. Your body being sore and getting DOMS all the time, which shouldn't be happening if you've been training for more than a few months. So watch for those signs, and if those signs are there, you might need to cut the HIIT cardio out and go to more moderate intensity or even low intensity steady state cardio. Now, what I want to point out with the latter, due to its lack of fatigue, low intensity steady state cardio is actually fantastic for fat loss. And it's not because it burns the most body fat. It absolutely doesn't. Even though it might burn fat as a higher substrate for fuel, that doesn't mean you're going to lose more weight on it. It burns the lowest calories of any form of direct exercise that you could do when you compare it to like interval training or weightlifting, things like that. However, the lack of fatigue involved means that you can do more of it. It's also not going to make you feel as lethargic and lazy as the other type. So that's one of the reasons that even though people have come up with data over the years showing that, hey, some of these other things seem to burn more body fat and raise metabolic rate a little more, the reason you've seen so many people who are very successful at getting lean, who've incorporated large amounts of low intensity steady state cardio, some of the leanest people I've ever met incorporate that with their weight training, people who stay leaner year round, people who actually eat large amounts of food and fairly bad diets, who I've known this because they actually are endurance athletes on top of it. Look at guys like Alex Viada. And it has to do with the fact that hours and hours of low intensity cardio every week doesn't induce very much, if any, fatigue on you like the other things do. So you can simply get away with more. So when you start to see fatigue setting in and you want to continue to eat more food and you want to do activity, doing a less cardio every day will be one of the best changes you can make. And what you're going to find is doing non-exercise activities will help also. It will help keep you more active. Force yourself to use non-exercise activities to help you burn through more calories, because again, they tend to really accumulate over the weeks and months, but without inducing a lot of fatigue. Meaning if you're at your job and you need to get to the third or fourth floor, take the stairs instead of the elevator. If you just need to walk down the street to go get your mail, go walk down the street and get your mail. Don't drive your car a quarter of a mile to go check your mail at the box or something. It's little things like that that start to add up. Once the other things become too fatiguing and they're interfering with your ability to live your life, they're making you feel irritable, cranky, potentially harming your health. If you're starting to see signs of mild overtraining or chronic overreaching, then it's really time to start focusing on those non-exercise activity, those little bitty things, just that extra walk to go check the mail, that extra walk up the stairs at your job one time a day instead of using the elevator. Those little things add up. Forcing yourself to fidget when you're at your desk at work or at school, just to fidget a bit more, move your legs around a lot more. Those little bitty things will start to add up for people who are getting too much fatigue from the other activities and they need to back those down. You might find that over time, doing that extra fidgeting every day at your work might actually equal as much total calorie burn as adding that 15-minute HIIT session does every week, but without the additional fatigue, soreness, and other problems that it causes. So guys, fatigue management starts to become a major issue for people who don't have a perfect lifestyle or perfect health and perfect age when it comes to recovery and you're trying to lose body fat and lose weight. All right, guys, but that's really all I have to say on that today. I hope it's been informative, and I will talk to you guys next time.